This is the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 25, and it reads, it says, if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakadash, Barakatham, to the elders and apostles, Akim, Akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a quick sit-down lesson in the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 25. And that's going to be the title of the sit-down lesson, so hopefully this be edifying. And this is the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 25, and it reads, it says, and if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. Right, so that's what we're seeing. Modern day houses being divided, especially with these protesters that we're seeing in the world today. You have the opposing side protesting against the other opposing side. Not just only here in America, we're seeing this around the world. So modern day divisions between modern houses being divided, which cannot stand. That's why we're seeing the uptick of wars in the world. Like scripture says in the book of Luke 21, verse 25, of the disgrace of nations will perplex the seas rich born. I'm writing that out for edification's sake. Yeah, this is the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars upon the earth. Disgrace of nations will perplex you. What seas rage born? So I'm going to look up the etymology. Yeah, the etymology of perplexity and disgrace as well too. Yep. Let's go to perplexity. Yeah, perplexity is a noun. Bewilderment, doubt, uncertainty. Yeah, bewilderment, doubt, uncertainty. That's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing the increase in the disgrace of nations will perplex Caesar was born because of the the division between both sides, opposing sides, especially when it comes to these protesters that we've been seeing. That's why we're seeing the protesters of the ones that's doing protesting, and they are opposing the sides, the current leaders that's in power. That's why we see it. They look at it as unrighteous, unconstitutional, unrighteous decrees, like it says in Isaiah 10 and verse 1. And then look at the other definition of the disgrace. Yep, disgrace is a noun, a circumstance that causes anxiety or hardship. Yep, causes anxiety or hardship. That's what you say. Yep, Luke 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars upon the earth. Disgrace of nations will perplex you. What sees where it's born. Right, that's what we're seeing among the nations. And this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3, verse 8. It says, in a time to love, and a time of HATE, and a time of war and time of peace. Right, that's the time we're living in. And the time of HATE, and a time of war as well, too. That's why we're seeing Matthew's, the 24th chapter, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And that's what we're seeing. Yep, Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose in heaven. Right, so we're living in modern day times and seasons of modern day houses being divided, opposing side, especially with these protesters. And that's what we're seeing, just like it was in ancient times. Now we're seeing it once again in modern day times. So there's no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9. It says the thing that had been, that which shall be, that which is done. And there's no new thing under the sun. Right, so there's no new thing under the sun. And that's what we're saying. This is out of the book of St. Mark. Matter of fact, second Esdras. Yeah, second Esdras. Yep, second Esdras 9 verse 3. It says, therefore, there shall be seeing earthquakes, upwards people the world. Right, this was seeing increasing earthquakes and upwards people the world. Second Esdras 15 and verse 14. It says, woe to the world, and then at what they're in. Second Esdras 15 verse 15. It says, for the sword of discretion draweth nigh. Right, we know the modern sword is a weapon. It says, for the sword of discretion draweth nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another with swords in hands. Right, and that's what we're seeing, the divisions amongst the nations, especially with these protesters. Second Esdras 15 verse 16. For there should be sedition among men, which we're seeing right now. For there should be sedition among men that's being divided against one another on both sides. It said, for there should be sedition among men, vetting one another. They should not regard their kings nor their princes, and of course, the action stand in power. Right, that's what we're seeing with these protests, and that's what we're going to continue to see more signs of it. Yeah, once again, St. Mark, the third chapter, St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 25. And if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. Right, so if a house be divided against itself, the house cannot stand. That's what we see. So with that, hopefully this quick sit down lesson was edifying. Hopefully this sit down lesson was edifying about St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 25. And that was the title of the sit down lesson. So with that, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kwakadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, and the name for Mashiach Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashon Kodash tongue. I say Barak Thumb to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Akwaf, and I say Shalom.